Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We usually like to cover the more fantastical side of superhero stories, but today we're switching gears a bit. We're diving into a world where superpowers meet super wealth.
Yeah, think less about capes and kryptonite.
Exactly. More like stock portfolios and philanthropy.
Precisely. We're going to be exploring the idea of a superhero whose wealth makes even the likes of Tony Stark look like, well,
It's like a small business owner.
haha, something like that.
And to really get into this, we'll be looking at excerpts from this book I found, The Richest Superhero, Wealth, Power, and Responsibility.
Catchy title, right?
It got me hooked. So imagine, right, a superhero who's not just out there fighting bad guys, but also tackling global issues like poverty, hunger, you name it.
And they're doing it not through brute force, but through the strategic use of their immense fortune. It's a fascinating concept that really pushes the boundaries of what we traditionally think of as superhero abilities.
Okay, but let's not beat around the bush any longer. The superhero we're obsessed with today is rumored to be worth a jaw-dropping $500 billion.
500 billion. I mean, that's more than most countries' entire GDP. It's a truly mind-boggling figure.
It is. This isn't some spoiled rich kid who inherited their fortune either. No, this superhero, who we'll call superhero name, built their wealth from the ground up.
From what I've read, superhero name was practically a financial prodigy. Even as a kid, they had this incredible knack for understanding how money works, how markets move.
It's like their superpower is money.
Haha, in a way, yeah. But here's the kicker. Instead of hoarding their wealth or, buying a solid gold yacht, they decided to use it to make a real difference in the world.
They're like the anti-Lex Luthor, right?
Absolutely. They're all about leveraging their financial power to tackle some of humanity's biggest challenges. And they're not just throwing money at problems either. They're incredibly strategic, very data-driven in their approach.
So they made their first billion by the time they were 25, which is, pretty impressive in itself. But what really sets them apart is their commitment to using their wealth for good.
Right, and they've got a pretty amazing track record to show for it. For example, back in 2023, they pledged $100 billion to combat world hunger.
100 billion. Wow. That's a lot of zeros.
It is, and it wasn't just about providing food aid. Superhero Name invested in long-term solutions like sustainable agriculture, improving infrastructure in developing countries, things that could actually break the cycle of poverty and hunger.
That's incredible. And from what I've read, they've also been a huge champion of renewable energy, right?
Oh, absolutely. They've poured billions into developing cutting-edge solar technology.
Like, are we talking about solar panels on rooftops or something more ambitious?
Think bigger, way bigger. We're talking massive solar farms, enough to power entire cities with clean energy.
Wow. And it doesn't stop there, right? I mean, they've been involved in peace negotiations, funded education initiatives, even supported research into curing some of the world's deadliest diseases.
It's true. They've had their hands in just about every major global issue you can think of.
Makes you wonder, are they even a superhero in the traditional sense, or are they something entirely different?
Right. It really blurs the lines between, fiction and reality. You know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, it's one thing to read about billionaire philanthropists in the news, but to see a superhero doing it.
It definitely takes things to a whole new level. And it raises some really interesting questions, too, about the implications of this kind of power.
For sure. Like, is this a good thing? Is it even possible for one person to have that much influence and use it responsibly? It's a pretty heady topic.
No doubt about it. And it's one we're going to dive into even deeper right after the break.
I mean, it's like the more that we learn about superhero name, the more questions pop up.
Right. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Exactly. And some of those layers, well, they might make you a little uncomfortable.
Definitely, because when you have that much wealth, that much influence, it's hard not to wonder, are they really using it for good? Or are they just, imposing their own vision on the world?
Yeah, are they really saving the world or just like playing God with it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that a lot of people are asking, even some of Superhero Name's biggest supporters.
So what are the main criticisms? What are people saying?
Well, one of the big ones is that by acting alone, Superhero Name is kind of sidestepping, democratic processes.
So like they're not accountable to anyone.
Right. And that makes some folks nervous because even with the best intentions, that much power in the hands of one person, it can be a bit unsettling.
It's like who watches the Watchmen, right?
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of unintended consequences.
Oh, like are they actually making things worse in some ways?
It's possible. Critics argue that by sweeping in and solving problems single-handedly, Superhero Name might be stifling innovation or creating dependency.
It's like if you always have someone there to bail you out, do you ever learn to stand on your own 2 feet?
That's the worry. And it's a legitimate one, because even the best intentions can sometimes backfire.
So are we saying Superhero Name is actually a bad guy?
No, not necessarily. It's more complicated than that. Even their critics admit that they've done some amazing things.
Right, like you can't deny the impact they've had on things like renewable energy, fighting hunger.
Exactly. They've saved lives, they've made a real difference in the world. But the question is, at what cost? And is there a better way?
So they're like a complicated hero, right?
Definitely. And that's what makes them so interesting. They're not just a two-dimensional character, all good or all bad.
They're like a real person with flaws in all of it.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this whole discussion so relevant, because it's not just about a fictional superhero, it's about the questions they raise about wealth, power, and responsibility.
Questions that we all need to be thinking about, especially in today's world.
Absolutely, because these issues, they're not going away anytime soon. And if we can learn something from Superhero Name, even if it's a cautionary tale, then maybe, just maybe, we can create a better future for everyone.
So let's shift gear a little bit. We've talked a lot about the negative side of things, the criticisms and concerns. But there's got to be another side to this coin, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't talk about Superhero Name without acknowledging the incredible impact they've had on countless people around the world.
Right, like beyond the specific projects and initiatives, there's this whole inspirational aspect to their story, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. Superhero Name has become this symbol of hope for so many people, this idea that one person really can make a difference.
It's like they've given people permission to dream bigger, to believe that change is possible.
Exactly. And that's a powerful thing, because sometimes all it takes is one person, one spark, to ignite a whole movement.
So it's not just about the money, it's about the message, the inspiration.
Right. It's about showing people that they don't have to be a billionaire superhero to make a difference in the world.
They can be their own kind of hero.
Exactly. And that's something we're going to explore even further after a quick break.
I mean, it's really like they've redefined what it means to be a hero.
Right. Like, it's not just about punching bad guys anymore. It's about using what you have, your skills, your resources, to make a positive impact.
Exactly. And you don't have to be a billionaire to do that.
Nope, not at all. Think about all the people out there who are making a difference in their own communities every single day.
Like teachers, nurses, social workers.
Yeah, or even just someone who volunteers at a local soup kitchen or helps out an elderly neighbor.
It's about those everyday acts of kindness. Those small but meaningful gestures that add up to something much bigger.
Absolutely, and that's something I think we can all learn from Superhero Name, that it's not about the size of your bank account or the scale of your actions. It's about the intention, the willingness to step up and make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a little something to think about.
A challenge, perhaps.
I like that, a challenge. So if you had even a fraction of Superhero Name's resources, what would you do? What problem would you tackle? What change would you make in the world?
Don't be afraid to dream big here. Think outside the box. Let your imagination run wild.
Because you never know, your idea, however crazy it might seem, could be the spark that ignites a whole movement.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll be doing a deep dive on your story.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone. It's been a wild ride.
Definitely a thought-provoking one.
For sure. And remember, the world needs heroes, and that hero could be you. So go out there and make a difference. We can't wait to see what you accomplish.